What inspired you to write PCT?
I teach at the IBA, right? And my students actually asked me to write something in good English because they said, Miss, ये वो classic British literature नहीं समझ में आ रही. So I felt like saying, हाँ, मेरे कुछ colleagues को भी नहीं समझ में आती. But I didn't want to be rude. I said, okay, I'll write. About what? And they said, well, we'll give you some material to write on. And that's how it started. And then it just kept going. And obviously, I had an obligation to keep the English correct. Yes. But I also ended up writing stuff that they were addicted to, that they were hooked into. And so they ended up, sort of not skipping pages, which made a difference. Yeah.
So, what's your favorite story from Perennial College Tales?
With Perennial College Tales, it's very, very difficult for me to decide because stories are like your kids. You don't really want to go ahead and state someone is a favorite. I get around this problem with my daughters by saying I have great pride in my eldest and I love the younger one more. And a number of people are like, yeah, we can understand that. But I think I honestly sort of really would not be able to tell you for sure, but if you want to press me for an answer, it would probably be the interview, which is the very first one, because that's the one about a boy who stammers, and it's pretty true to life, and then perhaps my second favorite would be Admirals and Apple Pies, because that is based on Admiral Tasneem. Not the actual family structure, but the character. And he was a major war hero in 1971 who sunk the frigate, Indian frigate, the Kukri. And he's a double Sitara-e-Jurrat for that reason. And he is, so his character was like very major to me in the stories, and he was very pleased about it. He's really chill and cool, even though he's like 90 now. And ever since World War II, no one had sunk a torpedo, no submarine had torpedoed a ship that way. So that's a huge feather in Pakistan's cap. And then there are the sort of, veiled references throughout.
So how was your journey of writing PCT different than writing TCT?
The thing about TCT was that I just cobbled together a collection of stories, of 12 stories that I had, and sent them to the Office of Research, Innovation and Commercialization towards Liberty. They were the ones who actually liaised with Liberty, and Ella liked them. Ella Hussain, my editor at that time, who was very good. Isha Ahmed, my current editor, is also very good. But the point is that by the time I was writing PCT, I genuinely wanted it to be not just a collection of short stories I had put together, but an actual well-structured book. And Liberty also helped me considerably with that. So they're both good in their own ways, but the second one is more formal, more structured, and more literary, technically speaking.
Let's talk about the cover. What inspired you?
Okay, what happened was that Ella got the first cover done, Timeless College Tales, and she totally fell in love with it and said, we all love this. So of course I've been quite obliging in these matters. Said, yeah, fine. Then what happened was that with Isha, I gave her a few pointers, just the tarot cards and the reference to roses, which is all part of the story. And I said, I think we should have a more masculine take on this because of the masculine aggressive nature of some of the stories. And I think that Isha did a very good job of directing the designer and saying, we want a new cover, but at the same time we wanted to link it to the first one because they are, successive volumes. So that's how the cover came about, and it's looking so good, not just on the book, but on the bags and everything else.
What was the hardest tale for you to write in this?
The Necklace of Harmonia. When people actually read that, they're pretty shocked. It doesn't matter how old or young you are. This basically had to do with the brotherhood of the hostel being very angry about being betrayed. He by the guy who stammers in, who's one of my major characters. He's in 12 stories, Sanaullah. And he's based on one of the student leaders who actually also stammers. So I was looking very closely at that angle. And but he's a very good leader, and he ended up betraying them and breaking a kind of deal with them regarding student politics. So they surrounded him and, abused him, trying to break his spirit. This is something which brotherhoods do tend to do even now. And I had to be authentic in my language, which is something that Taha has picked up on. It's impossible not to pick up on that, because I received a kind of very diplomatic message from Isha saying there are a couple of words we have to edit out, but we can leave the rest in. And I said, yes, I can understand that. But the point of that story is not the language, it's the brutality and the harshness with which they treat him. But they do end up trying to break his spirit.
Let's go towards a little levity. Did any scene that you write, like, can you think of any scene that made you laugh while you were writing it?
So there was one where one of the major leaders is going through what's called ragging by the hostel. I'm not going to describe the scene, but now that I look at it, I start laughing, because it doesn't seem funny when it's taking place, because it's so very impressive in the masculine sense. But the thing is, I do try, that now makes me sort of chuckle, especially when I think of like a very senior generation reading that, although they appreciate it as much as anyone else. That's human nature.
What's the character that's closest to your heart?
People would say Madiha Suleiman, because she's sort of based on me, but I think she's a loser. I'll comment more on that when it comes with Taha asks me. But once again, it would most likely have to be Rehman Tabani, who's a very close friend of the Rumi character. Like, he's very brawny and masculine and tough and everything, but he has a heart of gold. And it's impossible not to love him on some fronts.
Lastly, if you had to describe your experience of working with Liberty, how would you describe it?
Oh, it's amazing. Well, you couldn't get better than Liberty, right? And I'm honored that they actually chose me as one of their authors, because unlike Taha, who's an incredibly major author, like translated into Russian, patani kya kya, and so on and so forth, and he's also a like well-known journalist, I'm just an academic who ended up putting some stories together. So I really didn't have the same claim to fame that some of the other authors did, but I think I got treated very well, both with TCT as well as with BCT. In fact, Liberty can be very patient with me. I'm generally very chill. It's just that this time I think I'm a little more high-strung about things, because I want to promote awareness. So that, because there have been some, there are crimes in the news about young men, college-level men, or people who are around that age getting killed, and I think that the promotion of the awareness would really help circumvent some of that. Okay. Thank you so much.